This is Recruiters on the Rise, and I'm Colleen Gallagher. Join me for candid conversations with talent leaders as we explore the work that drives them, the lessons they've learned, and how they're helping people find careers they love. The show is sponsored by Lavalier, an interview intelligence platform built by Textio. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Recruiters on the Rise. I'm so excited to have today's guest with me. She's our first guest based outside of the United States, and so I'm really excited to hear her perspective and how it might be different from those of us who are nearer to recruiting within the United States. She's been in recruiting for more than 30 years from Mexico City. She places talent across Mexico, Latin America, the US for some of the biggest names in global IT outsourcing. She built her own recruiting agency from scratch, developed a proprietary method for IT screening, and put together a database of over 21,000 IT professionals. She's worked with companies like Infosys, Wipro, and even collaborated with the Mexican government to help attract tech companies to open operations in Mexico. She has a really powerful candidate-first philosophy and perspective on the industry, and I'm just really excited to dig in and learn more. She is currently the talent acquisition director at Ascend IT Management Consulting. Guillermina Cabello, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. But I love to dive in and ask all of my guests this question, which is, what is the one thing or one action that sets the best recruiters apart from the rest?
The ones that really see the candidate as a person and not as a number, that you have empathy and that you really work with them to get the best for them. No, I always have in mind that being a third party recruiter, because it's most that I have done through all my life, is that sometimes you need to leave or to get a position, maybe not placed, but thinking first on the candidate, because you are dealing with their lives, and a decision or a wrong decision, just for getting you a fee, can impact their lives for a long run. So you have to be very empathetic and very honest and have a lot of integrity to really look first for the candidate, then for yourself, because life is nice. So you can maybe not make the immediate placement that you're looking for, but as long as you keep that, the things will fall into place whenever and you make the adequate placement. Mhm.
Yeah. How do you think about um, like what helps you ensure that you feel good about placing the candidate? Like what do you look for in terms of matching somebody with the right role?
Well, first of all, I try always to understand the hiring manager, and with that, then you when you interview the candidate, you can see if they're gonna be a match. No, sometimes, especially with repetitive clients, you get to know them better, and then you can find better the candidate. And when you work longer with the end clients, sometimes when you are working, you sometimes come across of candidates that you know that they're going to be a good fit for them for their long run plans, even though there's not an official opening. But then you work as a partner and as a colleague that share the vision of the company and the vision of the department, and you work most like a coach or a counselor, and then you can build good relationships that are good for the client, but that will end up being good also for your candidate.
You said that you always try to ensure that you give candidates something of value, even when they don't qualify for the role. So, what does that look like to them?
Well, usually they are very grateful that I take the time to give them something that they can apply in other applications that they have. I was commending that I deal a lot with bilingual candidates, So sometimes we have all our conversations in English, and they say, okay, your grammar is good, your fluency is more or less, but maybe why don't you practice? And sometimes I usually tell them, why don't you do this exercise that it's reading in English out loud? And it have helped them a lot, because I made placement like that when I interview and I say, okay, I'll halt the interview for a week if I can, of course, and then you do this and this and that. That's usually read material in English related with your job and then with day to day activities, just so that your tongue doesn't get twisted. As I say, because when you're a second, not a native speaker, sometimes your pronunciation or just starting to think that what you're going to say, it delays the fluency, So when you're reading out loud, it makes you uh, to speak more fluently. So that's the kind of advice that I give them. If I sense sometimes that the order of the resume is not okay or that they need to highlight something, I say, why don't you highlight this or this and that? Because I think that if we provide value to the people that we deal with, it's rare because if someone does the same for a candidate they're looking for. We like make a positive cycle out of the process because you know that many people think terrible things about recruiters that we're just wanna make placements that we don't think about them and that we don't see their needs. And what I receive from feedback is that they are grateful that someone takes the time to give them the feedback. No, so I've been doing this for a long time, and I like it, and it has worked for me.
Yeah, and I think it ties back to what you were saying about what makes a good recruiter, right? Because it's like the thing I think you hear from candidates the most is, and just sort of as any human, right? It's like when you just don't hear anything, and anytime you can provide a candidate some value, it feels so impactful and so meaningful, and so especially in the role where you build these long-term relationships and you care about where, people end up. I think that's a really good way to make sure that um, you can help people and coach people and build those longer term relationships um, that you've built. I'm curious. So you've talked about like you've spent your entire career recruiting IT talent in Mexico and Latin America for U.S. companies. And there's probably a lot of our audience who are primarily focused on recruiting domestically. So what does nearshore recruiting look like, and what do most people not understand about it?
Well, sometimes uh, it's like the cultural fit, and it doesn't happen like, let's say, in the US, but it happened to me at first with Indian companies, when they started to establish here in Mexico to provide nearshore services. So this is an example, no? Here in Mexico, people in some levels used to study and also work, no? Especially when they're ending their careers. So in the beginning, when the companies came, they say, okay, you are a recent grad, so our salary ranges are from this and that. And they didn't take into consideration that people have already been working. No, so they were very strict with the no, you're an entry level worker, and that was the case because they've been working for 2 years. So it took about 6 months to a year for the companies to understand that the way that things work here are a little bit different. And I think that the other barrier that we always face in nearshore recruiting, it's the pronunciation barrier because you can be knowledgeable in the language and speak fluently in terms of the vocabulary, elaborate and everything. But you can't not deny the accent that you have. And sometimes when there are recruiting people from Mexico or Latin America, they say, "Oh well, their English is not that good," and it's not that their English is not good. It's just that the pronunciation is the pronunciation. Because if you're gonna hire someone trying to pose as if they're native from the U.S., that's not gonna work. So you're gonna have some price arbitrage because you're recruiting your shore. So there's some trading of what you can give or you can give, and one of those is the translation. And you can see it now with artists. If you take into consideration like Salma Hayek, she still has her Mexican accent. No. And there are others that, Asa Gonzalez, or that they live in the US or they train for accent neutralization and everything, and they speak as a native speakers. But you need to understand what you're looking for in terms of nearshore talent. Because in the past, many was because there was a labor shortage, especially in the beginnings of the 2000, no? But the market trends have changed through time, no? And now maybe it's a price arbitrage, or I don't know. No, there are different drivers for the decision to hire nearshore. So you have to really understand what you're looking for. But I can tell that we have very good talent also for Latin America, and Mexico have been doing this for the last 20 years. So that's what we can offer as a country, no?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I love the point around what does entry level mean and salary bands and things like that, because that's, you know, as somebody hiring somebody, if I was looking at a person who has been working and going to school full time, that to me is like, wow, what initiative, what drive that person has. And so I love, there are things like those types of cultural differences, or that, having somebody like yourself who understands those and can work with these companies is really incredible to make sure that, people are respected and getting, everything that they need in terms of compensation and experience. So I love that that sort of nuance that you called out there.
I believe that it's more than just being bilingual. I think in my case, because you have to be bicultural, understand cultures, and see where are the gaps and difference, and trying to be a translator for the both parties to understand what they can offer and what they can get from each other. Because on the other side, you have candidates that say, "Oh, I'm being hired by a U.S. based company, so I want to make a lot of money," and that's not the case. No, so you really need to be like a translator of the realities. I always say that we recruiters are like a professional cupids, no, because we have two, two individuals, and you have to have to see if they actually match, but also even though they are a match, sometimes the placing time that each of the individuals are make that maybe they don't do the adequate match, because maybe the hiring manager had a very bad day when he's making the interview and it doesn't work, no? Or
Yeah.
maybe the drivers to enter the application from the candidate, it's different because he's gonna get married or he's gonna have a child, or there are things that get in the way, that sometimes it doesn't work, even though it's a good fit in terms of technical abilities and the cultural fit within the company, but it's just the timing that it's not adequate. So we as recruiter have always to understand where are we in time, both with our hiring manager and with our candidate. And I think that also, me speaking as a third party recruiter, it's dealing with HR, no, with the HR areas from the companies that are hiring, because it's very different, no, and sometimes at first, at least they know better than hiring manager. So trying to work all that and really sell the candidate sometimes it's a challenge, no.
I do find that as an interesting way to think about it. And you're right. Sometimes it's like there can be a lot of things that are aligned in terms of fit, and timing is just off for a variety of reasons. Yeah. Um, I guess just sticking with the nearshore um, recruiting process, one of the things that you consult on are TN1 visas and that process. For people who aren't familiar with it, like what is a TN1 visa and why does it matter for the nearshore talent pipeline?
Okay, the TN visas, well, before these big changes have come into place with the new administration, but usually it's uh, they were designed at first when the NAFTA treaty was signed, and it was all they are only for Canada and Mexico, so they don't have a cap like H-1B visas. And, but the process is different from Canada and from Mexico because from Canada, at least in the past, they only have to have their offer letter, get to the border, and then they can get in. And it usually took, they were given for 2 years and then renewable for two consecutive periods of 2 years. But they don't have the seniority for applying them for a green card. So usually you get hired with a TN and then file for a H-1B, and then after you get H-1B, then you can file for a green card. Uh, and there were some very specific areas that you can apply for, and IT was one of them. But recently, some changes have occurred, so you have to have a very specific IT engineering background to be able to fight for this. No, but I think that the advice here would be like keep informed of all the changes, because one thing is that what is announced, and then one is what is actually happening. No, but basically, in terms of talent, they are easier to get uh, and not as costly as the H-1B visas.
That is helpful. I guess just shifting a little bit towards your just overall experience. And, you've been in IT recruiting for 30 years. You've gone from a world that had no internet to AI powered sourcing tools. So what have you found has changed the most about how you find and attract talent, and what feels like it's still the same?
Well, I think that finding the talent has become easier with the tools because, well, we've gone from job boards because at first, and that's why I started, when we had an assignment, we went to actual events to find individuals or where they hang out, no, like the restaurants near areas that the big tech companies had, and maybe make deals with the restaurants to have them leave their cards or something like that, so that you can get their contact information, no. And I once had a project where I knew that one big tech company has their boss with different routes where they were picking to take them to their labor center. So we make printouts of our opportunities and hand them out when people were waiting for their boss. No, you have to be creative in that. No, right now, well, you have the job boards, and then you have LinkedIn, and but I think that the only thing that has changed is that the 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 final target is digital, but the way that you approach with your innovation and creativity has to be the same, no? Because you look for technical communities, and maybe in the past, maybe meetup events, and right now there are less because after the pandemic many things changed. But the one thing that remains is that you have to really identify where the community that you are targeting is, are they hanging out? Either it's physical or digital, but that's what you have to do. So that's thing that maybe in terms of methodology, that's what still stands, no? And I think that the other challenge, and I don't know if really the technology is helping or not, is the engaging with the candidate. It's For me, it's still one of the biggest challenges, no? Because there are two scenarios, no? The one when you have an open position and your company is very attractive and you have a lot of people flocking to that position. So there the challenge is identifying the best people for the position, and then the screening comes the challenge, and there's where maybe the ATS filters or the AI can help to get the ones that they consider the best, no? So that's the one scenario. The other scenario is when you have an opening where it's very hard to fill. And then all the stress of getting and finding the candidate and engaging with them and getting them to respond, it's yours, no? And that hasn't changed through time. Even though we have the highest and the AIs or whatever, you can have them there, but if you are not able to contact them and engage them, then it's no use whatever it is there that can help you, no? Because let's say that technology has helped you to identify the talent, but what it's on you, it's the way that you actually engage with the candidate and get a positive response to participate in your project. So you really need to understand very well in which side of the equation are you, like you are, where do you have your leverage, no? And where you work from there.
I guess sort of tying it back into um, the discussion earlier about giving candidates feedback or advice. What has changed in terms of like what you see employers valuing, if at all, in terms of like candidates, especially in the IT and technical fields, with the emergence of AI? Are there different things that you see people hiring for, or has it changed at all from what you've seen?
Well, I think, well, at least here in Mexico, I think that we are in the early stages of our clients looking people with experience in AI. So we are both learning about the process and what are they actually looking in AI, no? Because do they want them to perform testing? So they are going to embed in the process, but they are still using the previous knowledge to fine tune the test cases, no? Or substitute so I think that we are still learning how how what are we gonna do with how are we gonna work with the different AI tools, no? Because what I've seen is that at first people were looking to replace that's for business, but to replace individuals, no? But what we're seeing now is that that's not working. That they still have to maybe cut one or two positions, but with the A tools make the individuals more efficient. But are they gonna just use the AI for consultation purposes, or they are going to build agentic uh, tools, no, or what are they? What is really the purpose? But companies, especially mid-sized company, they don't know what really to expect. So sometimes they are looking for candidates that can offer magic solutions, and maybe they don't need those magic solutions. No.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the narrative is changing a little bit in the market right now where everyone was saying, oh, the AI is going to end, the need for jobs and all of this. And certainly that's not to minimize some of the layoffs and contraction that companies have experienced. But I do think that what we're also hearing emerge with a little bit more force is actually we cut too many people, or, um, you know, we're not getting the gains, or we haven't really figured out how to measure the impact of AI overall. So I think that's interesting and sort of validating to hear that that's what you're seeing as well with some of these companies. And it's more about how do you help the people you have increase output and less let's cut a bunch of people because AI can do it for us.
Yeah, and the other thing, the other day I was reading an article that for me it was quite interesting because they say, okay, so you're using AI to substitute entry level workers, but when you need to replace move middle level, who is going to replace those middle workers that are moving up the ladder? No, because you don't have the base that's going to do that. So I think that as companies, as recruiters, and everybody has to be very careful of their replacement rates, no, and see what can you can do and what you can do, and maybe making in minor steps because also I read that Microsoft ceased to use a lot of their tools because in terms of cost was for the tokens and whatever was more expensive than actually using the individuals. So the hype is not that great when you, as time goes by, revise the cost and maybe you have to rethink it. No, so I think my advice for the companies is think very clearly for what do you want to use your AI, and then do it by baby steps. No, one by one in selected areas so that you can really measure in 6 months time your return on investment, and if you are having the results that you're actually no, and not just cut like three and then realize that you needed them as Ford did. No, I don't. Maybe you read also know that they had to rehire a lot of engineers that they laid off because they weren't getting the results that they needed, and I think AI, we have to learn a lot of about AI, no, because there's not a clear boundary between what's a learning model and a plagiarizing model, no. So, um, and things, or maybe some of the middle of things because it's AI, they can do everything, and that's not certain, no, like getting copyright material or working with the images of the people and things like that, no. So um, I think we have a lot to see with AI, and in recruiting, I think we have to keep abreast on the on the changes that are going so that we can provide adequate advice to our clients, either our internal or external, because we are the voice of the people. And if things don't work, it will return to us to resolve those problems.
Yeah. When you talk about a lot of companies, when they are doing hiring evaluations right now, want candidates with experience in AI, and knowing that that definition of experience in AI is a little bit inconsistent, and perhaps even the companies don't know exactly what it means. Like, how are you seeing candidates educate themselves if it's not been a core part of their role before? Are they taking classes? Are they doing projects? Like, what are the types of ways you're seeing candidates get more learning and education?
Some of them are learning on their own, and I think that at least Claude and ChatGPT have good academies to learn about that. I also seen that maybe the full stack developers or the data analysts that know Python, they do more, they go more through the LLM models, no, not the more sophisticated part. So it depends on the kind of background that they have in IT, the path that they choose, no. I seen many full stack developers that they did things with Python and are moving into the AI, but in the learning models, no? And then you have people with not that much of experience that they are moving more that in automation things using the same AI tools, no? So being very brief, that is like the two threads that I'm seeing currently, no?
Well, I guess I want to transition a little to learn more about you. One of the things you shared with me on our prep call kind of stuck out to me was you said that your experience as a consultant and running an agency is like wine. The older you get, the more valuable it becomes. But inside a company, sometimes age can be a liability, which is a strong statement. So tell me more what you mean about that and your experience there.
Well, ageism is a challenge everywhere. Maybe more in my country than in yours because there are a lot of protections that there that maybe in the states are more enforceable than here in Mexico because in theory we have them, but in reality we don't know. So I think that when you come of age, you need to offer your services as a value as a consultant, because the seniority counts, because all the experience that you have accrued through time, through dealing with different companies, different positions and everything, is something that you can offer to your end client as experience, where you can help them to get the better decisions because of all the things that you have learned. But when you are within a company, you have to follow the unwritten rules that people is I don't know. They say, okay, maybe people over 40 or 50, they have the experience, but maybe they can start facing that they get tired or things, because I don't know why they say that it's a liability, because I really don't find where's the liability, no. But that's the word that they use. And for me, the only thing would be that maybe they need more time for, I don't know, their personal activities, or maybe because they have suffered stress through time. But that's the point, no? That the way that you can market your knowledge is different when you are offering as a service provider, as in within a company, because I always think that younger people they are more innovative, creative, and they can give more to the company. And it's not really so, because experience can can bring a lot to the table, even companies know. So we always have to work with that, no, and to sell that the value that we can bring as people with experience, and just take those, no. And the other thing is that candidate thinks that the recruiter are filtering me out, and say, we are not filtering you out, because we follow the rules or the instructions that we receive from the upper management. So it's not me, because even though I want to present someone at maybe 60 or whatever, if I know that the hiring manager is going to reject it, it's not me. No. So we need to work really with the company values, the company culture, and with the upper management. Because sometimes companies, they say, oh, we don't have this restriction, but the guy that's making the decision has in their mind. So they use things that are not really measurable, no, to reject a candidate. And that's the challenge that we are always facing.
You've been doing this for 30, you said it for over 30 years, and you're still running your own agency and placing candidates, learning all the new tools. Like, what keeps you going? You seem very energized by it, but why is it, what's still fun about it for you?
I think that learning, it's all the new things. As when before the internet, no, uh, before the internet, like trying to find the individuals, and then when we discovered it, and using the initial Boolean searches and the engines, like when it was like you use Alta Vista before Google and everything, and things like that. It was nice. So now, for example, for me, right now, it's understanding AI and how can I apply it in the recruiting without losing the personal touch. No, but for me, the driver is always learning from the market, from the technology, from the individuals that I interview, because you always learn something, no? Especially when there are new tools or new skill sets in terms of technical skills. When I don't know, I say, okay, this is new for me. I'm not familiar with this. Can you explain it? I know that I'm making the first filter, but if I don't understand it, I can not put you through the whole process. So help me help you. And the interaction with the people, it nourishes me. No.
Yeah, it's fun to meet new people, have that human connection, sort of see how things are evolving. I think that's often what keeps people going, and it's exciting to see all the changes.
Yeah. It's, well, I say I'm 65 years old, and I'm still recruiting, and I like very much what I'm doing, and I'm always listening, and I try to do my best. I'm not thinking of retiring for the at least for the next 5 years, and I'm very eager to learn and to give the best of me in what I've been doing for the last 30 years now.
Yeah. I mean, what a gift, like to be able to do something you love. That's so fun. And I think it's also what, has probably fueled a lot of your success, right? Is if you're doing something you love, it doesn't feel like work.
And remote work helps a lot, no? Because I'm in my house, so I don't have to move a lot and things like that. So that's very nice, no? And but I did this even before of the pandemic. I've been working remotely, and one thing that I like very much about it, and I think it has helped me personally, is that I usually don't have conference, like video conferences. Everything I do it on the phone. So I think that I take out a lot of the bias because I only go and ask about the technical skills of the individual and get a lot about the traits in the way that they interact with me. So I have to make like the competence interview. Of course, I embed it in my interviews, but after so many years, you know when and where and what to read about what you're doing. So I think that what I like the most is that I have the means of make unbiased interviews the way that I've been doing for a long, long time, at least for the last 2 years.
And that's the stuff that comes with aging, right? Like that's the wine part of it, like we were talking about before, because somebody who's done this for as long as you have has the unique capability to do that, people who are younger and that type of thing applies to a number of functions and roles. It's not just specific to recruiting.
Yeah, because you learn a lot, even like establishing the interview, the way that they follow the instructions. Because sometimes I say, okay, thank you. I engage them through LinkedIn, and why don't you connect with me through WhatsApp? Here's my phone. Because now people don't like to receive phones or whatever because of privacy issues, and you see, they say when they say, oh, okay, and you see when they do it on their own, on they want you to do it, no. So from those little things you learn a lot, no. And I have an example that has happened twice this year. For me, my name is Guille, and in Spanish it's Gui. The G, it's Gui. And there are individuals that write my name without the U, that there are Spanish speakers, no. And there were both of them were testers. And for me to say, okay, if you are not able to follow instructions or even read my name or write it correctly, and you're a tester, then for me, it's a no go. You see, the same goes. The other day, I was coaching a guy to he's in a career transition, and say, for the people that I more strict when I review the resumes, see people that are selling, that are in sales or in marketing, because if you are not able to sell yourself, how can I expect that you can sell some other product or services? And the same goes for marketing, no? The way that you present your resume and that you highlight your strengths and try to diminish your weaknesses and things like that. That's part of being a strategist. And if you can't do it with yourself, then so I'm very strict with that. So I take also in consideration the kind of position I'm trying to fill and the in the way that I review the resumes. But that only comes with time, no?
Yeah, it's a way to identify if people have the skills that are required for the role. So yeah. Um, okay, one of my last questions, but it's a question I do like to ask everyone. And um, you know, you've obviously had a ton of experience in recruiting, and you've lived a lot of life. If you could meet yourself a few days after graduation, before you started any of this, like what advice would you give yourself?
My background is in computer information systems. So maybe it's not that I regret what I'm doing. I would say maybe explore most being in the IT field. But in recruiting, I would say start preparing earlier and try to look for the newest trends so that you can be always more competitive, no, because this is, and always learn from the market. Because at first I think that I was just navigating as things came to me, but after, I don't know, 10 years, and having gone through the internet bubble and the all the bubbles that have and the ups and downs, it's like always to be prepared and have a plan B, no? Because I entered recruiting by chance, and now I know that it's my passion and my career. But what I would say is that always be prepared and understand the economics of the country and of the world, and see where is your place within that ecosystem, so that you can make the right decisions and not just get to place just because the life took you, but that you are in the place at the time because you made an informed decision.
I love that. What do you do outside of work when you're not focused on recruiting? What is something fun that you do?
Lately, I've been learning a lot of entertainment, and I took a special course, let's say, about the entertainment industry. So I learned about the music industry and things like that, because I don't know, I like it, and so I started making videos like a fan base, but from the stories of the artists and things like that. So I really enjoy that, because I think that use a lot of the creativity, and I started from zero, no, and now I can use different tracks and levels, and cut the noise and make my own creations, and it's very entertaining, and you can use it for content. So I think that in terms of image and the way that you convey your message, you can I can blend both knowledge. So I'm trying to use that, and maybe will make myself a content creator with both my experiences. That's what I think I will be doing.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so much like so much fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I would try to learn something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally ties into that. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this. It was just very, this was a very fun conversation. It was really educational too, to just learn about some of the ways that recruiting can be different. Even though we're close neighbors, obviously, like you said, there's cultural differences and things like that that really need to be taken into account. And so it was really, really great to hear your perspective and share your knowledge on that. So thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, Colleen, I'm very grateful for the opportunity and for having this chat with you. And I hope that it's helpful. And it's been a lot of fun. You know that sometimes being in this side, you see, maybe we are very far from the first world country and whatever you do. But I think that we have many things in common, and we can learn from each other and get a good message, and get something positive, and a good learning experience for both. No, for me it was a very good learning experience. I haven't done a podcasting. I don't know how long, and I haven't done anything in English, so it was first time. And
Well, thank you. You did great. It was very clear, so I appreciate that.
oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I hope everything goes well, and maybe we'll meet in the future. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
And if people want to connect with you, what's the best way to find you?
Well, they can find me on LinkedIn with my name, no, and my email, it's GUILLEC at TERSS.com. That's my email, and that's why they can find me. No, but yeah, they ask me, they can ask a connection from LinkedIn and say, I learned from you on Recruiters on the Rise, and of course I will accept them, and it would be my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us. And thanks to everyone who is listening or watching. If you learned something new or laughed today, please share this. And once again, thanks to Guillermina for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
And that wraps up another episode. Thank you for joining. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at recruitersontherise.com. Recruiters on the Rise is sponsored by Lavalier, an interview intelligence platform. Lavalier goes beyond basic note takers to improve your ability to assess candidates with AI-powered interview questions, summaries, and transcription. With Lavalier, you can finally hire with speed and confidence.